All right, we are live. Anna, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, Jefferson. Well, welcome new exhibitors to the the first new exhibitor webinar, how to have a positive and productive exhibiting experience. I want to personally welcome you to the Academy as an exhibitor, and we want to help you make this a very successful viewing at the AAO 2019. Let me tell you a little bit about Jefferson. He and I have been working together for quite a while. Recently, his E3 program, this new exhibitor program, and the Exhibitor Service Resource Center won Best Program to help exhibitors maximize their ROI at the Trade Show Executive Gold 100. So this program has truly been recognized by industry to be of assistance to exhibitors in planning, executing, and following up on their experience at this trade show. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jefferson, but I just wanted to interject one thing about that survey at the end of this webinar. If you would please complete that survey, we will credit your company with 2 priority points, which will put you ahead of some of the other new exhibitors, because you will have accrued points. And be sure to look at that information about point accrual in the exhibitor prospectus. Go ahead, Jefferson.
All right, thank you, Anna. Wow, that is quite a generous offer for showing up to the web briefing and taking a few minutes to complete the survey. 2 bonus priority points. So make sure that you watch that email, complete that survey. Very few shows are willing to do that, but that's Anna for you. I've been working now with AAO, hard to believe. We're at the 20-year point. And, there's a lot of shows out there that a lot of you probably do that the only time you hear from the show organizer is when they want to sell you something, or they want to check, or they send you all those rules and regulations that you have to follow. But I don't know of anyone that cares more about her exhibitors than Anna. She is really a champion for ensuring that the exhibitors get maximum value from their investment. And so it's been a real honor to be part of this team. The philosophy here is that we really get that, all exhibitors are important, but new exhibitors, you fall into a very unique space, because surveys tell us that attendees rate seeing new products and suppliers as one of their #1 top reasons for attending and visiting the exhibit hall. And you are the ones that really help us keep this hall, interesting and changing. If the same companies just showed up every year and there was nothing new, things could get a little boring. And you reflect really the growing and the dynamic part of the industry. And the philosophy at AAO really has been, again, to do everything and anything we can do to help you succeed at the show. So I want to launch a poll here. This will give us a better understanding in terms of where to kind of maybe go a little deeper and where we can go a little faster on. How long have you been managing trade shows for? And you see 4 options. You're brand new. Somebody handed you the exhibitor service kit and says, take it over. Or, 1 to 5 years. So you've been at several shows, maybe 6 to 9 years. Or you've exhibited with us before. I'm sorry, actually, the response is 10 plus years on the poll. So go ahead and fastest fingers, click it now. I'll give you just a moment. We're at about 75% of you have polled. 81% on 3, 2, 1. And let me share the results. And I think, Anna, you'll be interested to see that 24% of them on today's web briefing have been managing shows for over 10 years, 38%. It's your first show, so welcome. Welcome. We are really glad you're here with us today, and that we're going to try to make this smoother for you as best as we can. So the philosophy is this, right? We don't want to just rent you booth space and hope that it works out for you. Is that we want to give you a roadmap, a proven roadmap that's been developed, refined, validated over 28 years now of working with exhibitors. And that roadmap is designed to help you not just deal with the logistical operational stuff, but to deal with the strategy stuff too. Deal with the strategy. So that's really important. And the centerpiece of the roadmap is the Exhibitor Resource Center. And we've been continually updating this over the years and to try to make it faster and easier for you to find the content you need. And you'll notice that we've organized it into a 4-step consumption plan. In step 1, there's tools and planning exercises, which I'll show you in a moment. In step 2, I want you to block out a little bit of time to do these exercises because these are the critical success factors. In step number 3, we've got articles, standout exhibit reports where you can go in and look over the past years of exhibits that we've spotlighted as a guide to show you how to really create an exhibit in the Academy meeting that rocks. And in step 4, you got questions. We got a team of experts, and it's all free. It's all part of your exhibit package. So the takeaway here is make sure that you bookmark it. Make sure you share the link with everybody on your team, and make sure that you check back frequently because we're continually updating. Okay, so the team, everyone's here for one reason, to make you look good, to help you succeed. And the director of the exhibitions team is Anna Zamatera, who just you heard from. Again, she absolutely cares about every exhibitor more than a lot of show managers I see out there. And LaShawn is exhibitions manager, Arlene is a coordinator, and Abigail is a promotions manager. So anytime you have questions, please do not be shy about sending an email or picking up the phone and making a call. Again, we want to make it productive and profitable for you. Anna had mentioned me a little bit. My background is trade shows. I've got tossed in my first one, of all places, Moscone Center, all the way back in 1985, and really been on the hunt for how do you turn trade shows around from an expensive appearance to where you show up, you fly the flag, you scan some badges, you go home. How do you turn that around to a productive, profitable investment? And I think now with all the experience and being able to trace over 800 million in combined results with my clients, we have some answers, right? We definitely have some answers here. So let's get started then. So here we go. So here's the big thing, right? The first thing, if you're going to really make sure that your trade show program is positioned to deliver value and results, you got to be absolutely clear about what you're really buying, right? And at the end of the day, when you strip it all down from the lights and the exhibits and the demonstrations and the presentations, trade shows are really about two big things: face-to-face contact with the market, and next, what happens next. So your ultimate success is going to come down to how well you put your company identity, your products, and your staff face-to-face with people who can influence or make decisions for what you offer. And so the whole philosophy of optimizing trade shows is on the big idea that the magic power of trade shows is the power of face. And if I were to ask any one of your companies, your sales department, how important is face-to-face contact in acquisition, in retention, they would tell me very important. If I ask them how many actual ophthalmologists are they seeing on a day-to-day basis in the field, they would tell me not many. If I were to ask them, are they finding it easier or are they finding it harder to actually get in front of ophthalmologists out in the field, they would tell me it's harder than ever. And so trade shows, that's the magic power of shows. Never forget that it's about face, right? Everything else is the kind of like a Broadway play, like the props and the script and everything else, but it's about face. The other shift that we have to make, too often, we tend to view a trade show as an event, right? It's 3 or 4 days out there in the future. Not really. You got to shift from what I would call, not just an event perspective, but a campaign perspective. If you're doing it right, it's at least a 6-month campaign. and you're getting very active 3 months before showtime, dealing with all the pre-show stuff we're going to talk about. And then you've got 3 or 4 days at the show in the middle, and you got to do the right things there in terms of working your booth and taking full advantage of the opportunity. And then post-show, when the doors close, that's when the real work begins. And if you think about it like a chain, then it's at least a 6-month chain. And just like a chain, if you neglect or skip over or avoid any one of these 3 critical time frames, your results are going to be limited. The value you get will be diminished. So you've got to be taking clear, decisive, strategic action in all 3 of these time frames, pre, at, and post. The problem that I've seen over the years, and this may resonate with you, is that if you're a marketing manager and you're responsible for managing the show, is that 95% of your pre-show time, right, that critical first link of the chain, gets spent on logistics and operations. What do I mean by that? Well, get the space, get the booth, get the graphics, get the products, get the people, send them there, set it up, tear it down, send it home, do all that on time and on budget, and call that pre-show planning. I don't really call that pre-show planning. I call it dealing with logistics. And, I guess the bad news is you got to do the logistical stuff, but if you really want to get value, if you really want to get return on investment, you've got to carve out time to address the strategic side of the exhibiting game. And there are 5 factors beyond logistics, is the best way I can say this, beyond logistics, that we've been trying to figure out. The 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. I think everybody's familiar with that, right? The Pareto principle. And what it tells us typically is that 80% of the value that we get from executing an activity typically comes from 20% of the actions required to get us to that outcome. And so logistics being a big part of the actions, these are the strategic parts, so defining your outcomes, using selective attraction, managing the visitor experience, managing your leads, and then measuring how well you executed and where you got value and if you ultimately got return on investment. Those are the 5 success factors. I'm going to add a little color commentary to them now and then get into some tools to get you started. So Stephen Covey, in his amazing book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was a New York Times bestseller for over 20 consecutive years. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind, right? And that's what I'm talking about here. In defining your outcomes, you want to reach out at closing time, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months after the show, and ask yourself, how will we know that we succeeded in the areas of marketing, customer relationship management, and sales? And the clearer you can reach out and define your outcomes down the line, the easier it is to reverse engineer the outcome, to create an action plan to bring that vision into reality. So exhibiting by objectives, having clear goals backed up with written action plans that are communicated and executed and measured. That's where you start. People ask me all the time, how do you turn a trade show around? Well, you begin at the beginning. You start by clearly defining what success looks like for you, and then working backwards and creating a plan. And we're going to give you tools to do this too, by the way. Number 2, selective attraction. Here's the big idea here, right? Remember, trade shows are about face, okay? The AAO meeting is going to have, I believe we're going to be in the 13,000 plus attendees, way more than that, right? But that's more than any one of you could ever handle. So the question for you is, who is the right visitor for you? And by the way, we're going to take you inside the demographics here in a little bit and show you who attends, what specialties, what types of practices, so you can really sharpen your saw to make sure you're focusing. But you got to define who's the ideal visitor for you, number one. Number two, you've got to create a value proposition, and you've got to give them a reason to come visit your booth out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of exhibits at the show. You want to get on their agenda. You want to get in their mind. And then you've got to do some pre and some at show marketing. The end game of selective attraction is identify and attract enough of the right people to your booth. If you can do that, get in the mind on the agenda of enough before they show up, it's the equivalent of winning the game before kickoff. So we're going to talk a little more about selective attraction. We're going to have you run your interaction capacity in a moment. Number three, manage the visitor experience. Your visitor experience comes down to three big things: your booth, the look, the messaging, the ease of access, the ease of finding what you're looking for, right? Everything about your booth. And then how are you showing, telling, presenting your solutions, whether you have a product or a service, your demonstration, and your booth staff. All three of those elements have to be synchronized, right, to deliver a quality visitor experience that gets that visitor to commit to a clear next action. Manage the visitor experience, number three. Number four, if you're not signing contracts, writing physical orders on the show floor, and you ever hope to get a financial return on your investment, then you've got to understand that the real takeaway, the product, the thing you're going to walk out of the exhibit hall with is leads. So therefore, you've got to step back and take a close look, because lead management for most exhibitors is a big, big problem. And it starts with, not having a good qualification process. It starts with scanning every badge that is breathing and near your space, right? And so you've got to really step back and go, what information do we need to capture? What questions do we need to ask? We need to integrate this into our lead qualification and capture device. And we got to train our exhibit staff on guiding conversations by asking the right questions and capturing information. Ideally, more than just what's embedded in the badge. And then, of course, right, we don't capture a lead to sit on it. We capture a lead to do what? To follow up on it. So we got to make sure that we have a follow-up plan designed so we're ready to go. We're not waiting a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks after the show to follow up on our leads. We're moving fast, right? The first responders in lead management, first responders win the majority of the deals. So be a first responder. Number five, measurement and learning. It's hard to improve something if we're not measuring, right? So each of us have to come up with a set of performance metrics. How well did you execute your exhibit? Value metrics. Where did you get value for your company? And ultimately, return on investment. And we're going to give you a tool to do that too, by the way, that's pre-designed. You plug in your numbers and it'll do it for you. And then ultimately, we should walk off this show floor with at least 3 lessons, 3 learnings, 3 things that we are going to do better at our next show. Because if you're doing this right, every show you do, you should be getting better and better and better results. So those are the 5 critical success factors. I guess the question for each of you is that if you had to score yourself on a 1 to 5, a 5 being very effective, a 1 being ineffective, if you had to say, how well are we addressing these 5 factors right now on a 1 to 5, how would you score yourself and your company? Go ahead and do that. Jot it in your workbook. Put a 1 to 5. A 5 means very effective. A 1 means you're not doing a lot in this area. And here's the promise, okay? If you address all 5 of these factors, not only will you win at the AAO annual meeting, you'll win at every show you do. Here's the warning. If you neglect any one or any combination of these 5, your results are going to be limited. So we want to make sure you're aware of these 5 factors, and we give you the tools. So let's get into new exhibitor onboarding, the process. So step 1, if you have not done this already, the minute you get off the webinar here today, I want you to go to the Exhibitor Success Center and download all 3 of these tools. You'll see on the left, we've got a cost control tool that's pre-built for you. Plug in your numbers, and it'll automatically benchmark them to the averages. It's got tips on how to save money by each area. And by the way, all of these tools are customizable. They're either a Word doc or an Excel spreadsheet, so you can customize all of these, right? So cost control. In the middle, the 16-week action plan will help you manage the logistical, operational, and the strategic stuff we're talking about. So that is your Planning Central tool. And on the right, your performance measurement tool. We have 4 performance metrics built into it and 5 value and ROI metrics built into it. And so step 1 for everybody, grab these tools. They've been battle tested in real shows over the last 28 years. They've played a key part in helping me generate over $800 million in sales results from trade shows. Download and use them. They're free. Number 2, planning, right? Begin with the end in mind. Define your outcomes, right? So these 5 exercises hit the critical success factors. And you'll notice we're in a pretty close to showtime. So you're on that about that 1 a week window here. Your first one is defining your outcomes. And by the way, these are available on the site, the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. And as a new exhibitor, these will be emailed to you because we really want these to show up for you at the time when you need to be acting on them. My recommendation is this, that you block 90 minutes on or around each of these days, right? And that would mean tomorrow or after Labor Day weekend if you want. Gather your team and do these exercises 1 at a time. Do not try to do them all 5 at once. But we have simplified them to the point where I guess if you had to, you could. But my recommendation is, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, right? 1 bite at a time. So download, do these exercises. In fact, I'm going to give you a jump start right now on planning. Grab your pen, grab a calculator. I'm going to show you a formula on how to calculate what I like to call your PSO, your potential sales up. Built into this formula is exhibit interaction capacity, which will tell you how many people you can handle in your booth. Now, let me say this again, just from a legal standpoint. This is a formula, and it does work, but of course, we can't guarantee an individual exhibitor's results. There are so many variables that could impact whether you get the final results. All right, so grab your pen, let's do it. So the AAO annual meeting has 28 exhibiting hours. What is that? That is your playing field. That is your field of opportunity. Question: how many people are going to be standing in your booth for the purpose of talking to visitors? I want you to take that number and jot it down. The rule of thumb, as you'll see on the footnote, is 50 square feet per staffer. So if you're in a 10 by 10 booth, you have space for 2, maybe 3. Don't overstaff your booth. On the other hand, don't understaff it. Don't put 1, because if you're tied up talking with 1 person, anybody else that stops is gone. So put in your average number of booth staff, your full-time equivalent. Now, listen carefully to this third one. I want you to set a target number of interactions per hour per staffer. By an interaction, I just mean that your staff is going to talk to this many people per hour. 3 per hour is conservative. 4 per hour is moderate. 5 is maybe aggressive. Not necessarily, but maybe aggressive. That just means that for each hour in the booth, your booth staff is on task to talk to at least 3 to 5 visitors on an average hour. Okay? Now, multiply those numbers together and you have your magic number. You have your exhibit interaction capacity. In this example, it's 168 interactions. I would like everybody on the webinar right now quickly to go to your question tab, click on questions, and I would like you to type in your exhibit interaction capacity right now. I want to make sure that you understand this piece. Everything else will spin off of this number. So go ahead right now. I'll give you a moment. And if you aren't following the formula, this would be the great time to fire away with a question about the formula. Okay, the numbers are coming in. So a few of you are right with me. You're at 168 interactions. That must mean you're in a 10 by 10 with 2 people. We've got one of you at 252, 224. Another 168. So you're right there with me. So here's the thing, right? Remember earlier we said selective attraction, win the game before kickoff? So if you are executing a pre-show marketing campaign, your goal is to get in the mind and on the agenda of the best 168 people you possibly can. That's called winning the game before kickoff. Okay. Now let's drill this down. There's a benchmark in the industry, CEIR research report, that found that on average, 1 out of 4 visitors to a booth convert to a lead or an opportunity. I say use that as a benchmark to start. Now you have a firm lead goal for the show. By closing time, we will capture at least 42 qualified leads. Now, if you look back at the number of hours in the show and the number of booth staff, that's like less than 1 qualified lead per hour per staffer. Is that doable? Very doable. And by the way, if you don't like the numbers, like this lead count number, change the variables. You can't change the number of hours in the show. You may be able to staff, you may be able to increase your interactions per hour. The better you do it pre-marketing and having your booth traffic filled with high value interactions, the higher the percentage that will convert to an opportunity too. So this example, I got 42 leads. So now my booth staff's on task. They know that when they hit the floor by closing time, I want 21 qualified leads per staffer by the end of the show. Now, some percentage of those leads are going to convert to a customer or an order. The benchmark, according to the CEIR study, is 20%. So 2 out of 10 of your leads convert to business. That would be 8 in this example, okay? 8. So now I have a goal, right? Within 6 months of show closing time, we will have written or captured at least 8 new customers. Now, if you could either take your average sale amount or your average value of a customer, I'm going to use $15,000 in this example. Now I have created my potential sales opportunity, $120,000 in this example. And again, if I don't like the bottom number, if I change any of the variables, the bottom number will change. So I've thrown a lot at you here. I'm going to take a look in the question queue and see if we have any questions on the formula here, because you know what I want you to do next. I want you to follow the formula all the way down to your PSO. You don't have to submit that to me, but I want you to follow it down, because now you've set goals. 3 interactions per hour, 1 out of 4 interactions convert to a lead, 2 out of 10 leads convert to an order. The average order amount is. Now you have figured out how to get your return on investment from the AAO annual meeting. And notice too, right, for you to win the game, you got to get 168 of the right people to your booth. Well, we're expecting over 15,000 physicians and health professionals. It's really not that hard to win if you're doing it right. And doing it right means everything we're talking about in this web briefing here. Okay, so let's go back to our onboarding program. Now, as you work on those 5 critical success factors, there may be ideas or best practices or knowledge gaps you need to fill. The webinars, we have 7 topical webinars on demand on the site that hit all of the things: how to make your exhibit stand out, driving qualified booth traffic, delivering your value prop, integrating social media, staff training, secrets of the aisles, step-by-step how to improve lead quality and sales conversion, and a webinar on measurement, right? So I would recommend that you watch these webinars around the time frames of the planning exercise. And there's also articles. We've got a whole series of articles and white papers that are topical. We're basically giving you access to a complete library on how to make this pay off. And finally, you got questions, we're here for you. This blue button, you just click Ask the Trade Show Experts, type your question, and I have a team of 10 trade show experts, several of which are CTSM, Certified Trade Show Marketers. We're on call for free for you. So this is a lot of stuff. And the final piece of the puzzle that I want you to know about, and Anna mentioned this out of the gate, this is part of the Trade Show Executive Award-winning program. We're going to come visit your booth in action at the show. We're not going to interrupt you and take your time. We know you're there to interact with the attendees, but we're going to do a 21-point evaluation of your booth in action. We're going to score those 3 major areas. Shortly after the show, you're going to receive a report by email. You'll notice on the left, here's a dashboard. Right at the top, you'll see your overall score, and you'll be compared to size of booth, in this example, linear or an island, and the all show average, meaning the total number of exhibitors we evaluated in the show. You'll have 2 levels of comparison. You'll know what your score means. In this example, 12.81, this exhibit scored pretty high. You'll know the number of exhibitors that were evaluated and the number that you scored above, both by your size category and the all show average. And you'll have a breakdown of the 3 areas with heat map scoring, photographs, comments, and it's a tremendous diagnostic tool to help you acknowledge what you're doing well and learn what are the changes that you can make going forward to get even more. Sometimes 1 or 2 little changes in an exhibit can make all the difference in the world. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes to go here, a little more content. I'm going to take a look into the question queue. This would be a good time to think about any questions that may have flashed in your mind. Let me disconnect. Let's see. The first question is on priority points. Anna, someone's asking, what do points mean?
Yes, Jefferson. Exhibitors are earn priority points for some basic things, and then we've also added bonus priority points. Information on the points can be found in the exhibit space section of the exhibit prospectus. So points are primarily given for the year of participation and the size of the booth, because there's 1 point per 100 square feet. So when you purchase a 10 by 10 booth at $3,600, you're earning a point right there. And by participating at the meeting, you're earning a point. These points are cumulative. We have many exhibitors that have been with the Academy's annual meeting for over 25 years. So you can imagine there's a wide spread of points earned. These points are used for your placement on the show floor. This year, I'm not sure if some of the new exhibitors noticed, but we have moved to an online exhibit space application process, and it was launched in 6 phases based on the exhibitors' priority points. So in the certain phases, they were allowed to go online, submit an application, and select preferences of 3 booths from what space was available. And that is what those priority points are used for, your position on the floor.
All right. Thank you, Anna. And by the way, again, that is super generous of you to be rewarding them. I work with a lot of shows, and usually the priority points is a taboo area that no one wants to really mess with. But that's Anna for you. She's kind of setting this up in a way to help you win and build your status and your booth selection in terms of location. So it gets better and better and better all the time. Okay, so yes, Anna.
For just a moment, Jefferson, because many new exhibitors realize also that they were kind of limited to an area on the show floor, the new exhibitor pavilion. Next year with points, you'll then go out into the general population of the overall exhibition. This year, however, you'll be all centralized in one area that'll be helpful for the attendees, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. The new exhibitor pavilion is a really smart strategy because we know that attendees want to see who's new and what's new. And by grouping all the new exhibitors into one area on the show floor, it creates a natural gathering place, and it tends to see a lot of traffic because, again, they want to see who's new. And as you look at the screen right now, this starts to break down in terms of the total attendance. You'll notice the total event attendance is 24,149, but we back out exhibitors, spouses, and guests. So when you look at physicians and health professionals, you can see that they're the lion's share. 85% of the attendees are physicians. So if you market, to this market, the ophthalmology market, you are absolutely in the right show. You'll also notice there are 508 exhibiting companies, and a little over 1 out of 4 attendees are international. So this is truly an international event. Second is, as you look at your products, your services, and you begin to try to estimate how big your potential audience is within the show, then you start looking at subspecialties. You'll notice on the left here with the chart, we break down the number of, now again, these are not exhibitors, not guests, not spouse. These are only physicians and health professionals. And it's broken down by their subspecialties. Like if you're into comprehensive ophthalmology, you're looking at almost 2,500 attendee dead ringer matches. Maybe you're more specialized and you're in an area like glaucoma. There's 1,170. When you compare these numbers back to your exhibit interaction capacity, you see that it's pretty easy for you to win at this show, provided you're clear about who you want to see. On the right is the type of practice or facility. Notice group practices lead the charge with almost 3,800. And then you start getting down into hospital staff, multi-specialty, and research. And Anna, what would you like to share on the attendees? What else do they need to know?
Yes, what I wanted to say about this particular information is you might ask yourself, how can I reach this target audience? And there is a way the Academy rents mailing labels that can be broken down by specialty, and you can send a promotional piece pre-show to them. In the online exhibitor service manual, there's an advanced registered mailing label list, and that will give you the information. You can also email me directly, and I'll send you that form.
Excellent. And hey, and by the way, pre-show marketing is a critical success factor. And don't be afraid of the mailbox today. The clutter in the mailbox has gotten really, really light. The clutter is in the email box. We all know that, right? And so the ability for you to acquire a pre-registered attendee list drilled down to the specialties and the type of facilities gives you the ability to reach out and touch them prior to the show. And of all the things that you could invest a little money in, I'm telling you, that's the first place I would go to try to get on their agenda before the show. So be sure to take a look into that. So let's talk about attendees for a moment. We talk about who they are, but what do they want, right? They're looking for the latest innovations, right? They want pre-show communication, which is why it's important you market, to help them plan their visit. They're under pressure to get more time from their time away from the practice. They really want to see both information and interactions at the site that they can experience to help them learn, to help them understand how to do things and better compare. And anything you can do to show your products in action, to demonstrate performance, capability, compliance, it's all going to add to your credibility. The way they tend to behave is they tend to plan ahead. There's a lot of educational sessions, there's technical sessions, posters. They're coming to the show with an agenda. They pretty much know where their blocks of time are. They know where their blocks of time in the exhibit hall are. And they'll often come with a list of exhibits they want to visit, questions they want to ask, right? And again, they're really looking forward to hands-on, minds-on. And in this market space, there's very little tolerance for sizzle without substance. So one of the best resources I can point you to immediately is watch the Driving Qualified Booth Traffic webinar, because we'll walk you through how to put together an integrated pre and at show campaign. Anna, you were mentioning the list. Tell us a little bit about some of the free marketing ops available.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. We'll be sending an exhibitor bulletin very shortly that will have some information about our online exhibit floor plan that's going to be posted on the exhibition page of the Academy's website. It is promoted to advanced attendees for their opportunity to peruse the exhibit hall and who's attending and see the products and services they may be offering, as well as a brief company description. You will find a way to populate that information for your company in your unique company checklist that will appear when you log back into the exhibitor portal. It will list things also to register your representatives, to access the online service manual, and also, as I mentioned, to provide this information that will be uploaded into your company's information in the online floor plans. So that's populating your free digital booth in the show map. That information is also carried over to the mobile meeting guide. And we've just completed the exhibitor list that's going to be in the meeting program on site. That's a printed exhibitor list. All new exhibitors are identified with a identifier by their company name to identify that they are new companies. Now, one of the things that's very important when you're selecting your products and categories in the company checklist is to indicate that you are a new exhibiting company, because that is something that attendees can then search for in the show map. The other thing that's not identified on this particular slide is the fact that in the AAO card pack, which is a package of small postcards that are mailed to advanced attendees, we include a card that lists all the new exhibitors and their booth numbers. So that's an added value as well. And you'll see that AAO card pack under the promotional opportunities. And then, of course, leveraging your social media. You're free to use any of the tags that you see on this screen to post updates about your company.
Yeah, and on social media, we've got a complete webinar on the ESRC on best trade show practices for social media. So be sure to check that out. That's free, and there's high engagement, so be sure to use that. Anna, what do the new exhibitors need to know about the portal?
Yes, I'm sorry, and I see that I kind of jumped ahead a little bit with what I was mentioning in the previous slide. But yes, available online in the exhibitor portal is the online service manual. You can update contact information about the company. You're going to register your representatives there. That's very important. And any exhibitor who has additional booth activities, if they're planning a presentation in their booth, if they're going to have a wet lab, if their company has a laser that they're going to demonstrate or display, or if any of their products are non-FDA approved, there are items in the portal that you'll need to complete, and those items are there based upon your answers to the questions that were on the exhibit space application. So if you have any of those items and you don't see it on your checklist, again, contact us. We can add that back in the back office. There's also complete information about booth activities in that particular section of the exhibit prospectus. The exhibit prospectus is posted on Exhibitor Central. Let me say a little bit about Exhibitor Central right now. That is the web page dedicated to exhibitors for information about their participation in the exhibition. On the Academy's website, there's a lot of information for physicians and healthcare professionals. Exhibitors should go to the exhibitor section, and Exhibitor Central is the landing page. But there's about 8 different pages underneath that web page specific to exhibitors.
Yeah, and spend time with that. You know, most of your headaches, most of your hassles, most of your cost overruns could have been avoided. If there's one place that you really want to make sure that you know this inside and out, that's your exhibitor portal. So make sure you spend the time there. So Anna, give us the high points. We're running a little past the buzzer here, and I have just a little bit more to cover. What are you put together this list of top 8? What are the ones that I mean, you need to pay attention to all these, but what are the few that you really want to emphasize while we have our new exhibitors here?
Most important, paying careful attention to deadlines for the suppliers and vendors. And if there are questions you may have, feel free also not only to reach out to the Academy staff, but also Freeman, our general service contractor, has customer service representatives available to answer your questions. If you can't find an electrical form, if you need a V and you're not sure, you can go to Freeman San Francisco CS at freeman.com and submit your questions to them. And again, watch for the bulletins, exhibitor bulletins. I send those out periodically, and I try to cover what upcoming deadlines there are. I'm a little behind on that, but I will be sending one out very soon. Pay attention to those, read them thoroughly. Yeah. I even insert sometimes a sentence to give extra points, just as a hint.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so really, pay close attention. We understand as an exhibitor, it feels like it's a lot of information coming at you, and it is, and it's all important. We're trying to really help you do 2 things. Make sure that your logistical and operation is as painless and easy as possible, but also that we're driving you on the critical things you need to do to succeed at the show. So I'm going to wind us down here with our top 10 list. Sometimes the easiest way to win is just don't make the mistakes that so many exhibitors make. And number 1 is not spending enough time with the service portal, the kit, the manual. Number 2, unrealistic expectations. When you ran your goal setting formula exercise, maybe that's the first time that you've really come to grips with that trade shows are about face, and now you understand what your interaction capacity is, and you know that your job is to try to fill that. Remember this, the best way I can say number 3, reasons are not enough, right? If I ask you, why are you exhibiting, and you say, build brand awareness and get some leads, those are reasons, sound reasons, but they're not goals, right? A goal is by closing time, we will capture at least 42 qualified leads. That's a goal, right? So make sure that you've moved from reasons to goals. Your location, coming in year 1, you've got a great advantage right out of the gate with the being in the new exhibitor pavilion because we get a lot of traffic there. But here's the thing, don't rely on or blame your physical location for success or failure. If you do a good job of targeted pre-show marketing and you design an experience worthy of the attendees' time, you'll get your fair share of traffic. And you saw from your formula, you really don't need that much to win. But you do have to pre-market, right? You wouldn't throw a party at your house and not invite anybody. Same idea at trade shows, right? You got to reach out and touch people. Make sure your exhibit works. Look at those standout exhibit reports and grab the best ideas, that it grabs attention. It's clear who you are. It's clear what you do. There's a reason for attendees to stop and engage. There's something to do of value in the booth. So make sure your booth is working. That product presentation demonstration, give that tremendous thought in terms of how are you going to quickly multi-sensory engagement with your attendees. Hear it, see it, do it, right? Number 8, your booth staff. You can do all this stuff right, and the wheels can fall off if you've got people who are looking and acting like they don't want to be there. Or worse yet, they leave your booth empty. So make sure your booth staff is up to speed. Watch our webinar, Secrets of the Aisles. We have a complete staff training webinar for free. Number 9, your lead capture, right? Remember, if you're not writing orders, signing contracts, then this is the real product. And number 10, be careful about how much time you take into consideration as you evaluate the results from the show. Many times, exhibitors will have a order or a client come in 6, 9 months after the show, and they never trace it back to the show because they don't have a closed loop system. Here's my thought for new exhibitors. If this market, if the ophthalmology market's important to your company, you're in the right show. I promise you're in the right show. I don't think there's any way you can judge the ultimate value from one show. I'm going to recommend you make a commitment to at least 3 consecutive shows, using more and more of what you're learning and improving from show to show. There will come a day, if you will, that you'll look back and go, wow, what a difference a show can make. So make some time to get out and walk the exhibit hall. Take it in, Attend educational sessions. Be where the attendees are. Tell your booth staff when you're awake, you're working at a trade show, right? Use that exhibit performance measurement tool. It's going to help you quickly assess, capture your 3 lessons. And finally, be patient. If you are committed, you learn, you apply, you stay committed, I promise you there will come a day in the not too far future that you look back and go, wow, what a difference a trade show can make. I've seen it personally. I've seen it with the hundreds and hundreds of clients I've worked with, and that's really what we want for you. So the stage is set, right? It's going to come down to just taking action, doing what you're learning, using the tools, following the 4-step process. And with that, Anna, I'm going to look in the question queue, and any closing thoughts or comments from AAO as I look.
I would just like to thank everybody that they took the time out of their busy schedule, and I know their to-do list must be just over miles long as we're so close to show. I just wanted to say a couple of things. The discount deadline for Freeman ordering furniture, carpet, and that type of thing is September 17th. There is an important dates checklist in the service manual that I'll also link to in this bulletin that's upcoming. Also, I wanted to say about the new exhibitor pavilion that is promoted on site with signage and also overhead banners. So that's another way we try to identify where the new exhibitor pavilion will be. And this year, it is right adjacent to the Academy's booth on the show floor. So a lot of our members say when they're going to the annual meeting, they're going to the Academy. And one of the areas, of course, they always want to check in on is the Academy's booth, which is quite large on the show floor. I believe it's a 110 by 110. And the new exhibitor pavilion is just to the right, to the left of that. So you're in good company. And again, thank you so much for joining the Academy as an exhibitor. And let us know whenever you have any questions or concerns.
All right. One final question we received, Anna. Where would exhibitors learn more about your lead retrieval system?
Yes, there is actually an order form in the online service manual. Email me and I will send you that form so that you can review the various options that there are. Our registration company, Experian, is the provider of the lead retrieval machines and swap devices.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, thanks for everybody for the trust and the confidence you're putting in the Academy and for investing time with us. We're in this together. A show wins when we all execute great exhibits, deliver tremendous value for our companies and for the attendees. And the roadmap is here for you. We're here for you. As Anna mentioned, the entire exhibits team, my team at Competitive Edge. So my closing wish for you is do as much of this as possible, right? And we look forward to seeing you at the meeting. It'll be here faster than we all maybe even want it to. But thanks for logging in, everyone. We've enjoyed really presenting this today. Wow. We look forward to seeing you on the site and at the show. Be sure to complete your survey to get your bonus points. And this concludes our new exhibitor web briefing for today. Thanks for logging in, everybody.